DC's Next Level initiative is all about elevating the universe, pushing boundaries, and raising the stakes. So naturally, they gave a number one issue to the guy who wants to drag it right back down into the gutter. That's right, the main man is back. And today we are breaking down Lobo number one. And let's just say the fragging has officially commenced. However, does this issue actually deliver, or is it just nostalgic noise? Let's not waste any more time. Let's find out. So the series opens up just how you'd expect it would, if you know the main man. We got the Space Hog, we got the rock and roll, and a bunch of mother fraggers at the Chug and Slug pub out here on Route 67. In true Lo- Loboian style, we'll call it, he parks his Space Hog in a no parking spot. Although, I'm not gonna lie, it looks like there's plenty of room to go around, but I digress. However, a little green Karen isn't too happy with him, and I love how we're out here somewhere in the cosmos, probably millions upon untold millions of miles from Earth, and these little aliens still know who Kiss is. That shows you've made it in the music industry. And I get, while it isn't about size, I probably wouldn't go picking a fight with someone the size of Lobo if I were this little green guy. As we see his arm get torn off, and Lobo uses it to fix the parking problem. What a fragging bastich. And here, our cantina scene looks like George Lucas got a hold of it because we see a whole host of different aliens. And when the bartender, if that's what they're called out here in space, asks if he's working or drinking, going forward, this is going to be my answer. I'm working on drinking. That made me laugh. And maybe I'm not the only one, as Lobo hears others laughing, initially seeming like he thinks they're laughing about him. But it would turn out they're watching some fantastic programming from the good people at the Omni Mega Plus Entertainment Corp. Murder Mouth and Fisty Claws. And we get a little meta here where they mention anti heroes. And of course, Lobo doesn't even know what they are, let alone that he is one. Lobo seems to be having some trouble understanding how you are an anti hero just because you do a bunch of bad script, killing, and fragging. But as long as you make jokes and pop culture references, then you aren't a villain. So, of course, Lobo decides to show them that he may not be an anti hero in this version after all, as he starts roughing up some bastages. And when one of them asks him what his deal is, we go into origin story mode. Okay, guys, quick cut in here. I know we're about to go over the story he's telling the people about his origin, but there's a little more to it than that. I wanted to kind of cover it real quick for those curious about the main man. Lobo's original appearance was in Omega Men 3 back in June of 1983, year I was born. Lobo was originally from the planet Vorol, Voorl. You know me on pronunciations. And he wasn't a Zarnian, he was a Valorpian. The Valorpians were a violent race that possessed amazing regenerative capabilities and even the ability, when one of them died, to spawn 100 little clones of themselves. Eventually, the Scions introduced a virus into the population that stopped them from regenerating themselves, and the race was eventually wiped out, all with the exception of Lobo. However, after Crisis on Infinite Earth, Lobo was retconned to being a Zarnian. Except this time, the Zarnians, at least at first, were a peaceful race of near perfect immortals that knew nothing of war and death, as they could only be killed by other Zarnians. Now, this gets retconned a couple times in the comics as well, where they go back to being evil or evil race, and then they go back to, but the most lengthiest version of their story has them as a peaceful, loving race. Um, and then it was a science experiment Lobo was doing that wiped out his entire race, leaving him as the last Zarnian. But let's see how Lobo tells the story. Now, in the beginning, his telling of his origins is close to the most people are familiar with the Zarnians and how he was born and how he brought fear to the planet, basically. He is who he is. No schooling is going to change that. Here's where he takes a little creative turn with it, though, as he tells the fellow barfolk that he peed in the planet's water supply and that's what killed them. And as he tells the story, he even mentions fighting a guy who wears the underwear on the outside of his pants, mentions the female Lobo we have seen in the comic. And it's funny because he's talking about this situation he can't describe. And we see his new 52 version of him, which is kind of was a complete redesign of the character, and most fans were not happy with it. Funny enough, though, in the KO event in round two of the fight between him and Wonder Woman, he actually chooses this form and they make a little joke about it as well. He even goes into telling them about Wonder Woman. But the bar patrons were not really looking for his whole life story. But the main man, if there's one thing he loves to talk about, it's himself. And we finally get to meet the real reason all of this is taking place. There is a bounty on Wit Dusty, and Lobo is here to collect. And if he has one rule that he believes in, it's when he takes a contract, he finishes it, regardless of who else needs to be taken out in the process. But just as Lobo is about to complete the bounty, Dog, and yes, that is his actual name, comes up and coughs up of his phone, and it would seem the contract has been canceled. Apparently, the ones who placed the contract on Quit there sold their business to a larger corporation, and the contract was actually bought out. But what does this mean for the main man? It means he must go see the good folks at Omni Mega Plus Entertainment Corp, the largest entertainment corporation in all of existence, to get his cancellation fee. And it's only seconds into him being there that guns are out. Lobo is ready to show them how he deals with people who don't pay up. But why is this entertainment company getting into the bounty hunting in the first place? Even worse, why are they paying off bounties? It would seem Omni has been busy buying up the entire bounty industry. But why? Sounds like me when I get a little extra money and I just go shopping and making dumb purchases on Amazon. However, this was no impulse buy. Turns out, growth in the anti hero genre is the fastest growing business in the universe currently. After all, viewers love reality TV, even though most of us know it's highly augmented and controlled reality. But you add in anti heroes with regular folk, and you've got some entertainment. And as another group of soldier looking people bust in, going all Ed 209 on Lobo, wanting him to comply, it's time for Lobo to do his thing. He's going to comply all over them. And over the next several pages, it is pure carnage and death, and definitely not Lobo. After all, there is plenty of the main man to go around. Now, during all of the chaos, you see Lobo getting hit with gunfire several times, but don't worry, the main man has his incredible healing factor. So it ain't doing much. So finally, BoobTube stops the madness, and he explains to Lobo that his actions that he just displayed is the exact reason they want him to be their next star. A reality TV show into the hyper violent world of bounty hunting, with him being the lead and having more money than he could possibly imagine. Although, when it comes to money, the main man's got a pretty big imagination. And we end on a final shot of Lobo, and I don't know about you, Bastiches, but I think he is liking the idea of being rich and famous. And that is where the issue concludes. All right, guys. So that is Lobo issue number 1 in the bag. Let me know down in the comments what you thought about it. How are you liking the main man? Are you excited that this is going to kind of help build up to the Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow? Because we know Lobo's going to be in there. So maybe him kind of giving a brief origin helps the people who aren't as familiar with his character. How are you feeling about it? Where do you think this is going to go, and where would you like to see it go as a comic series if they continue on in this DC next level? And if you have made it with me this far, you might as well go ahead and give me and the main man a like. Consider subscribing to the channel and having the bell notifications clicked so you get alerted anytime we release any new videos, including everything going on. And we're going to start with the DC next level here. We just wrapped up the KO event, and we have everything going on in the Absolute universe. You will get alerted when those come out, guys. And to keep this video as short as is humanly possible, that is going to go ahead and do it for me on this episode of You, Me, and DC. Until next time, guys, I'll see you then.